it is very important that we as Christian women flip the script, look at our narratives, our approaches to work so that we can be authentically ourselves and live life with intention, work with intention, even when it disappoints us, because you know who ultimately is in control. Hi, welcome. I'm Dr. Phyllis, and this is episode 42 of Joy in the Pivot. I have been thinking about you this week and really thinking a lot about what I wanted to talk to you about in this week's episode. And I wanted to tell you something close to my heart. Don't forget to pack your lunch and faith for work. You may be asking, what are you talking about, Dr. Phyllis? A lot's been on my mind, and I am a strong believer based on my own personal experience that we as Christian women have to hold on to our faith. And our workplaces, most workplaces, are not necessarily built to make us expressing our faith easy or acceptable. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, not everyone's going to be a believer. And actually, as Jesus said, there's spiritual warfare out there, there's principalities that are going to be against us because we believe in Him. And I think because of our faith, we have a very strong sense of right and wrong and wanting to be of service. And we easily become heartbroken when we see that people aren't being treated fairly, we're not being treated fairly. We see a lot of potential messiness or drama going on in the workplace, or I'm going to be honest, hypocrisy going on in the workplace. And it just can break your heart. I know I've had my heart broken in the past. You've also heard me talk about that. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. And I think I said this not too long ago because it's just one of my favorite examples. Because when I was going through a hard time, I said, you know what? I'm like Dorothy. I've seen behind the wizard's curtain. And once you see that it's not this made up, grandiose, you know, perfect being, it's hard to unsee that. It's hard to initially see this is just a person. And often we will put people, we will put jobs, we'll put situations on these pedestals so that when the people or the environment or a situation disappoints us, we fall hard. And if we're not careful, we get stuck. Maybe we had someone who we loved who was our supervisor who was either promoted to somewhere else, or maybe they weren't done right and they were moved to a different position. And that can make you feel lost because that person was someone that you could talk to, someone who you felt shielded you, who had your back, who advocated for you, and you're like, "What? Now what?" And it's just hard. And I see you, sis. I hear you. I talk to Christian women every day who are going through a similar situation as you. And I've been there myself. And I can tell you that God is with you. He may be getting your attention to say, "Hey, I need you to look for me in this situation." And he may be prepping you for the next level. So today I wanted to kind of take this a step further. I remember when my mom and I would talk about work as, I grew up to be an adult. She could talk about her experiences at work and now it resonates with me so much. It's one of the reasons I miss her because as life has moved on over the years and I can really understand better the things she would tell me about. And I have so much respect for her because she, like you and me, we wear all the hats and we are the go to person. But I remember her talking about how when she would put the garage door down at our house, she was in the alley. She always said that by the time she left home in the morning and she made it to the school. She was an educator. She'd been a teacher. She'd been a child care center director for years. And so she supervised a lot of staff, worked with parents and children, administration at the county level, at the local district level. She always talked about how, again, by the time she left home and she rounded that corner, actually, let me get it straight. She says, by the time I drove down that alley and I rounded the corner at work, me and the Lord had had a conversation and I was ready for the day. And I want that to sink in with you because I had to ask myself that question. How many times did I consult the Lord during the day at work? How many times did I pray to the Lord for guidance on the way to work? Have you ever thought about that? I want you to ask yourself that. I want you to think about that. How many times have you, before you even get to work, you're praying that the Lord help you during the day? How many times have you prayed before you have to make decisions or you have to deal with people, be it at your same level, coworkers, or maybe staff you oversee, or em- your supervisors, or you deal with clients, patients, or maybe even you work on the phones. How many times do you pray? Another reason that this is close to my heart is that there was a time, and I think I talked about this again last week, is I realized that when in my job, when I went for a leadership position the first time, I prayed. I prayed to God to give me the discernment to know if I should step out, take the risk, and go for it. And he told me yes. Yet, when I had finished the assignment, so to speak, and just kind of felt that it was natural that I would continue doing it for another 6 years, although I was exhausted, yet felt that was, what else? Well, I'm supposed to do it. I didn't stop and pray. And I will say, I prayed before another position that I went for, but yet it was I'm going to be honest, it was at the last minute. And even then, I didn't hear God tell me to do that, but I did it anyway. The reason I share it is that I have found that when I compare conversations, be them difficult, challenging, or I'm not quite sure what I'm going to say, when I pray first and say, Lord, don't let me come into this conversation or this situation on my own strength. Show me what I need to say. Remove me out of it. Give me discernment. Help me have mercy, show mercy, grace, all of that. Show me what I need to do. Show me what I need to do. When I've done that, actually, conversations, I'm not going to say the other person's not gotten heated, but yet I have gained discernment. I've gained courage, and I've been able to say things and be in a spirit, heart where I was calm. I was able to say what I needed to say. I was able to facilitate, negotiate whatever I needed to do. Yet when I didn't, when there were other situations that I didn't stop and pray, I was reactive. I was all caught up in my emotions, and they didn't necessarily go so well. So, what about you? When you stop and think about where is your faith when you're at work? Do you listen to inspirational music or do your Bible study at home? Close everything down and then you jump in the car and you get to work, or you jump on the computer and you're just in work mode. You go in the building and you just start your day. And you don't think about prayer or think about faith until you come home or until you shut the computer off. Or do you have your faith with you throughout the day, or will you stop and pray before you say something, before you do something? And that's where the topic today came from, was frequently we make sure that we kind of have an idea of what we're going to eat for lunch most of the time. Even if we don't pack our lunch, we kind of have it mapped out because we know we have to eat. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely a breakfast person. But if I don't eat lunch, my head gets lightheaded. I get lightheaded, basically. I get lightheaded and I can't think. And it just takes that much longer to get anything done. Or if I miss lunch, I'm usually just very hungry by the end of the day. So I may not always make the best choices. Yet, when I have my lunch or my snacks, because I've a lot of my work over the years has been driving around from place to place. When I have my snacks, I'm able to go through the day. So most of us have some type of strategy in place to make sure we have lunch, or if you're working in the evenings, that you have your dinner for your dinner break. But how often do you pack your faith for your work? And a devotional is wonderful if you have that, or listening to a faith-based or inspirational podcast, or I love audiobooks. You listen to a book. Those are wonderful. But how often throughout your day do you stop before you make a decision, before you respond to that email, before you jump on that phone call, to stop and pray and say, Lord, I know what I want to say. I know what I want to type. I know that this person or this situation is triggering me, but I don't want to do that. Please give me the discernment, Lord. Give me the strength. Give me the courage to take me out of it. Bring your Holy Spirit in and you be at work. How often do you do that? Because I'm going to tell you, it has made a huge difference. Now, that I'm going to be honest with you, even with saying that, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel a certain way and that person still upsets you. Yet, when you let God take over, He will give you a sense of peace because you took the higher road. And when you stop and ask God for discernment, He will give you the words to say. He'll also tell you when to talk, and He will also tell you when you need to be quiet. And I'm going to tell you that from my own experience, when God has been in control, as the Bible said, He will make your enemies your footstool. And I truly feel that our faith is really important. That it's so important that you don't just leave your faith at home or leave it in the car when you hit work, or you get on the computer and you put it aside. And I know that there are people out there that you're going to work with. They're not believers. They may treat you like you're weak or crazy because your faith. I've been there. because you're going to hear me talk. I'm not going to hit you over the head. But if someone asks me how am I doing, I'm going to say, I'm blessed. God is so good. And that's on them. Yeah, there was a time years ago where I was like, oh, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about my faith. And, oh, they're going to, but you know what? It's just, life is too short and it just gets to be too hard trying to be one person outside of work and another person at work. It's too much. And as my mom used to say, they're going to hate you regardless. So you might as well let them hate you because you're being you. And when I became comfortable in my own skin, I found joy. When I learned that I could have my sense of humor, I could talk about my faith, and that's on other people. And again, if you speak with me, I'm not one who I know how to read the room, but I'm also not going to deny whose I am. And I want to encourage you today, sis. There is joy, there is liberation when you give yourself permission. And permission is a big word to me because so often we wait for someone to give us permission to be ourselves. And I see you're waiting for someone to give you permission because our workplaces, the system has told us, oh, if you play by the rules, then you'll get this promotion, you'll get that promotion. And often you don't get the promotion. If you're going to get it, you're going to get it based on who you are. And and it's and it's going to be good because God meant for you to get the promotion. And that's really what I want to say. Because again, there was a time that I put the people who hired me or promoted me on this pedestal like I was beholden. It is good to be grateful. Don't get me wrong. We should thank them for the opportunity. Also, for you to understand that they are only doing what God has them to do or allows them to do, what God puts on their heart to do. Because over and over again in the Bible, God softened kings' hearts toward his chosen, the Israelites. And people waffle back and forth, but there's multiple stories of how God will soften people's hearts. God will have them do the right thing, maybe even after they've done the wrong thing, to help you. The people in our lives are a part of God's story, a part of his story through us. And I want you, when you're thinking about work, when you're thinking about life, when you're thinking about work life balance, don't forget your faith. Don't forget prayer because there is no balance. There's no work life balance. Balance means that it's even. That doesn't happen. Life is give and take. And what I want for you is to value yourself, to grow in your faith to the point that you can find joy and be comfortable in yourself because God has created you. And instead of life or this, let's say your day to day being in this dichotomy of work and life, really, God created you for his purpose. And work, while we spend countless hours doing our jobs, it is just one piece of the pie. And that's really what it's about. Is work is one piece of the pie, not the whole thing. And that is where we have to start. That's where we have to start. And that's a big step because, again, work is important. The money that comes along with work is important to support our households, pay our bills, be able to serve others. And with that being said, it is very important that we as Christian women flip the script, look at our narratives, our approaches to work, so that we can be authentically ourselves and live life with intention, work with intention, even when it disappoints us, because you know who ultimately is in control. And I want you to carry your faith wherever you are. As I said, you can have your faith, you can have your lenses, your glasses with your faith there to help you be able to see work in a different way and how you fit into that and how to rethink when disappointment happens or you see unfairness happen, or when you do get that promotion, that you don't become so consumed that you forget who you are and you get so caught up that work becomes the whole thing, and everyone else, be it your family or other things that are important, your rest, the other parts of God's purpose for you get lost because now you're consumed by who you see yourself as at work. Work is just one part of who God has called you to be. He's created you to be. Last week we talked about calling, so I don't want to get us confused. Who he's created you to be. I look forward to seeing you. I just got inspired by this episode today. I hope you did too. And I really want to delve more into how work fits into our life and all of the emotion that comes with that. Because work can become so big, so impactful, because again, we spend so many hours there that it flows over into the other parts of our life. And as I said, everybody else, everything else gets the leftovers or the fumes that are left, the crumbs, not even the good stuff. We give all the good stuff of ourselves, the best energy. We're giving the first fruits, as they say in the Bible, the best to work. And then we have nothing left over for the other part of our life. And I want to help you flip so that you deepen your faith, you connect to who God has called you to be, your purpose, so that you can put your work in the perspective so that it goes the other way, where you're able to be your best self in your life with work in the proper perspective so that you can then be present at work with all the boundaries put in to be able to see work for what it is, what you need to do and what you need to let other people do. Know when it's time to stay and maybe when it's time to move on or when it's time to step back so that you can, as I said, be the best you. I love you and I am so devoted and dedicated. I want to see you live your best life. And I want to do it by sharing and being your mentor, because a coach will, in my coach is my role as your coach. I'm going to help you by cheering you on, by helping you with your mindset. And as the mentor part is to share with you my experiences so that you can learn from things that helped me and also from things that I wish I did differently. Because I want you, as I said, live your best life and be authentically you. Because God has great things in store for you. So I thank you for joining me again this week for Joy in the Pivot, where we together cherish our faith by making sure to pack our lunch and faith for work. And I will see you back here next week, where it is my honor to help you pivot your mind, pivot your spirit, so you can pivot your feet into God's purpose. Love you. See you next week. Bye.